Hi folks, I'm here today to give a bit of a critique on this 25-ton benchmark wood splitter. I bought this back in May or June, I'm not sure which. I split quite a bit of wood with it. As far as the machine goes and splitting wood, the ram and the knife and the frame of it, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty good. Can't complain. However, since I've been using it and I've discovered a couple of things I don't like. One of those things I discovered was just today. Today is the first time I've actually tried to connect it to my vehicle. So it's got this jack post here, which is nice if when you're running it and you got it out in the yard and you're set up and you're splitting wood. It's great. But I've discovered it's a hindrance trying to get it on the vehicle. I can't, there's nothing I can do. I can't, this is too tall for the tow ball on this SUV. So you pretty much have to lift it up in the air and set it on something so that you can operate this jack post, get out of the way and drop it onto the trailer hitch. So I'll demonstrate what I mean. And of course it's got to be here. It can't be back here because this is going to flip that way. So you pick this up, set it over onto here, something taller than the jack post, pull the pin and pivot it out of the way. Now I got to lift this thing up, kick my supports out of the way, and then I can drop it onto the trailer hitch. In reverse, it's a whole lot easier. So to take it off the vehicle, this thing actually works pretty good. You pull the pin, it pops down, and gravity pops it into place. And there you go. Handy dandy. Great for getting it off the car, not so good for putting it on a vehicle. So my original critique of this machine, the main thing I found wrong with it is it's just not built for a guy of my size. I'm 6'2", and this, the working surface is just too low. And like I say, I could put bigger tires on it, but I'm putting out another couple $100 at least to do that, and I don't even know if there's tires to fit it. It's got another, there's two problems with the fact that it's hot, that it's this height. One is, you're bending over all the time, which is not good. So what I do is I lift it up. So the other thing is, because this is where you would normally stand to work this thing and run the lever. The problem is, to run that lever, it's really not in the right place. You got to kind of lean. I've got to kind of lean my body all the time. And again, I think that's because this is too low. The other thing I found, which is really strange, and this is probably just an assembly issue by whoever put this thing together. I've noticed when operating this thing that for some reason this oil filter rotates and it turns and it comes up and it jams against the corner of this oil pump. That is not good. And to prove my point, see that little nick right there? That little nick right there is from this thing pivoting, jamming up against the sharp edge of the oil pump right there. Now I could put something on there to cushion it, or I could put something around here, but I don't think I should have to do that. And the problem is, in order to fix it, in order to tighten this thing, not easy. It's right up against the pump, it's right up against this hose. I'd have to drain pretty near all the fluid out of this thing in order to do a proper repair on it. And I'm not excited about that. To try to resolve the fact that this thing is too low to the ground for me, I've got a full inch board and an 1.5 inch board. And what I do is I put these in front of the tires and then pull the splitter up onto them. There we go. So now I got to lift it up at least 3 inches off the ground. At least I can touch the deck here now with my fingers without having to bend over. Well, that's a lot better. And access to the control lever is easier too. I don't have to bend over to touch it. So that makes a big improvement. So, I mean, if you're a lot shorter than me, if you're 5'8" or 5'9", average height, you won't find this an issue, but this is a big issue for me. I simply cannot operate it in this mode unless I do this. My next critique on this thing, in which I'm going to make a modification on today to try to improve, is this log table here. Now I've lifted up the back, but I haven't done anything to the front. Now I could level it, and that would help, or I could lift it up even higher, and that would help even more. But the way it is, the vibration of the motor, you're working with logs, and if you've got a big log on here, half of it goes out there, you're trying to split the other thing, vibration is, the log can actually fall off of here, and then ends up on top of your engine. That's just a bad design. Either way, this log lift to me is really not big enough. There's no reason why you can't go out 50% or almost 100% further and be a lot more useful to you. I mean, if you're towing this down the road or whatever, the tires are out here. There's a good 8 to 10 inches here where you would not be adding any width to the machine when it's being pulled. So there's no reason why this can't be bigger. And my biggest complaint about it is whether it's unleveled this way or logs fall off either to the back or to the front. And the worst, of course, is it falls onto the engine. Not too logical. So let's see if we can find some pieces of material to put on there. It just so happens that I have some bar here left over. In case you haven't recognized the color of this bar is left over from this project. These pieces used to fit around the surface here and provide a lip between that. But anyway, I don't like buying things when I don't have to. So I got these scraps, and with a little bit of work, I can attach this on here. It doesn't take much. Just that little bit of a lip there is enough to stop a log from falling off of there. And if I extend both of these out this way, like so, and then run this piece across here, it won't take much to improve this. This bar here is long enough to span the whole distance of that shelf or table. And both of these pieces are long enough to get out there and give me a little bit of an extension. Even that little bit will make quite a difference. It really doesn't take much here. All you need is something. You just need something to stop the log from sliding off, and that lip there is enough. Now I can't attach it to here, but it can be on there like that, or it can be on here on the outer edge to give me a further distance this way. Same here. But both will provide a nice lip. I'll trim the one, and then I'll run this across, and I can set it on top, or even, probably even. We'll weld that up, and I think that's going to make a big improvement. Ah, yes. So, unhappy with the way this thing works. I had to go out and get some more MIG wire for the welder. So, putting my money where my mouth is, I took the liberty to get myself a new jack. So this post comes off. And this new jack is going to go on. And of course, they're not exactly the same. I mean, they look the same, but they aren't. So this is the jack, and this is the original post. So this hole will go in, but if you look here, the pin doesn't line up. So what I had to do was I had to take and use a die grinder and elongate this thing mostly to the bottom and this side, so that this would move over and get this pin in the right location. But even doing that, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. I also had to slightly elongate this hole here and this hole here, so that when the thing rotates in normal position, it will go in this hole, and then when it rotates into the travel position, it goes into this hole. So I had to elongate this hole this way, and this hole had to be elongated in the down position. So when you rotate 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees. This elongation is 90 degrees from that one. Anyway, nothing's ever easy. You'd think that they would fit, but possibly another one of these metric to imperial dimension screw ups. That wasn't easy, but now we have ourselves a jack installed. And the good news is, it has lots of lift. Now the bad news is, it hits there. You gotta be a little careful with your operating of the jack screw, but that's not bad. So you can see that that is way up in relationship to the splitter. So pretty much no matter where I take, wherever I take this thing or put it up on blocks, I got enough adjustment there that I'll be able to set the working surface to be level. And of course, the first complaint was that the post that was there wouldn't go low enough to allow me to put this on my vehicle. But now we'll be able to do that too. I mean, the original design of this, I guess, was intended to be installed on a pickup truck and not an SUV, but I know there's a lot of guys that operate these things and they tow them around with their quads. And I can't imagine, like the minimum, the operating height that it was before was 17 inches. This setup here is 15 inches, so it was 2 inches too high. I don't like the idea of spending a couple $100 on a new set of wheels, but having to dish out $35 for an adjustable jack, I think that's okay. I can live with that. But you know, I don't know what the operating height of most ATVs are, but I can imagine there's lots of them that are at or less than 15 inches. Anyway, I like it. That's a hell of a lot better than it was. So the wood on here is to protect my engine, air filter, and everything associated with that from the sparks of welding. Anyway, I ran out of MIG wire and had to go get another roll. So the stuff I use is Hobart 035 gaseous flux core wire in this MIG. I mean, sure, MIG with gas may be better, but for the kind of welding I'm doing, I can't be bothered with the hassle and the expense. Alright, that'll do. Well, that's pretty solid. It's not going anywhere. So what have we accomplished? Well, the original shelf was 11 inches. So the original shelf was a little under 11 inches. And now we got 15. So 11 to 15 is 4 inches. A little more than 30% we've increased it. And if you look at these 10 pieces here, logs are not going to fall off that shelf. So I had two complaints. One, then you're working, I don't think it was big enough, and you had a big block trying to push it out of the way, it would fall off this way, so it made this longer. So yeah, when you were working on a block like this, and you split it, you want to get the unsplit part out of the way. You don't want it falling off of here, so you got lots more room. And when you're working on this, I don't want vibration knocking this thing off, especially into the motor. So that's not going to happen. Anyway, yeah, this thing is, slapped together with some scraps that I had around, done as good a job as I can do. I'm not a professional welder, but I think this is going to be a huge improvement. Logs can no longer vibrate off this end and fall down on top of my engine and gas tank. I'd like to summarize this video by recapping the couple of things that I've done. One thing that I noticed, and another thing that I just noticed. First of all, the people of my stature, over 6 feet tall, that are operating this particular benchmark 25-ton wood splitter, it's really too low to the ground, and I have no option but to jack it up 2.5, 3 inches off the ground to get this working surface at the right height. The other thing is, I never found this working table was large enough. I don't understand why it's super smooth and slippery, so that if you're slightly unlevel, vibration causes the blocks to slide off either the back or, what's worse, down onto the engine. I don't understand the installation problem here with this oil filter spinning while it's operating and jamming up against the oil pump. If I don't do something about that, that's going to split and I'm going to have a real big problem. Yeah, and in conjunction to this, I think Benchmark should offer this same splitter for guys of my stature with a size of bigger tires. Yeah, it might cost an extra $50 to them buying them in bulk to get the bigger tires. I think that would be and that's an appeal to Benchmark. I think you should consider that. Another thing, an appeal to Benchmark is, I understand with a fixed operating jack post here, that at 17 inches mated with the tires that come stock on this log splitter, that everything works perfectly level. I get it. But for guys of my stature who need this thing elevated, they also need to elevate the tub in order to get it level. It would make a lot of sense, instead of offering a fixed jack at 17 inches, you're already welding the attached bracket on here. Why not put in an adjustable jack that makes it easier to raise it up to get that working surface level and at the right height for guys of my height, and the ability to lower it down onto a trailer hitch. I spent 35 bucks on this jack. It gives me enough lift that I have no problems getting the new operating surface to be level. So, a couple of options for, instead of having a $1,000 splitter, you're looking at, $1,000, $1,050 splitter. And it would improve the splitter a lot. I mean, you're already going to the point of welding the bracket on here to hold the post. Easy to change it into a jack. The amount of steel, when you're making this shelf, there's no reason why this shelf can't be made a little bit larger, and you're talking a couple of bucks worth of steel at the time. And this doesn't have to be an end plate like that. You could just weld on a set of teeth, something on both ends, and stop the logs from sliding off. And another thing I noticed the other day and today is when you're backing this thing up, you can't see it. I can't see it through the window of my SUV. I can't see it in the mirrors because it's narrower than the vehicle. So I've got a wooden post. So what would be nice, easy, would be possibly a little flag bracket welded on here. You could pivot the flag down out of the way so it doesn't interfere with moving blocks around when you're using it, and then pop it up when you want to drive or when you want to back up into a tight spot. Anyway, let's wrap this video up. I hope you liked my suggestions to benchmark and modifications that I made to this splitter. And if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe. We'll see you later. Take care.